Howdy folks, I am at Kaminari Taiko's New Year's mochi pounding party. This is a sort of annual event. This is the first one I've ever been to. I don't know much about mochi pounding. This is the first time I've ever seen it in real life, so it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm going to show you how it works. It looks really cool. There are a lot of people here, as you can kind of see behind me. There are probably about 70 people here right now. This is our dojo that we normally practice in. I know fewer than half of the people here, so I'm not really sure where they all come from. Let me show you the main attraction of the party, which is the food, namely the mochi. Mochi is a traditional Japanese New Year's treat made of sweet, sticky rice that is pounded into a thick paste. Here you can see some mochi rice that has been soaked overnight, and it is ready to be cooked. The rice was cooked in the tall steamer that you see there on the right. We had to do it in several batches. We probably had 10 or 12 batches of mochi during this party. This is the stone bowl that's used to hold the mochi while it's being ground with large wooden mallets. This is called an usu, and it's basically a giant pestle. It's made of stone and it's very heavy. Right now it's being filled with boiling water, which will warm the stone up so that the stone retains heat and keeps the mochi warm while it's being pounded. After the mochi is cooked, but before you can start pounding it into a paste, you first have to grind it to break up all the rice grains. And that's what these two folks are doing here. This is actually the most physically demanding part of the process, because you have to put all your weight behind the mallets and just grind and grind and grind. This takes about 10 minutes. When that's done, you wet your mallets so that they don't stick to the mochi, and then you pound it. And then you pound it some more. And then you pound it a little more. There was plenty of pounding to be done, so everybody who wanted to have a go got their chance. If you hit your mallet on the bottom of the usu, it can start to splinter, and the splinters will end up in your mochi, which is not a good thing. Here's a close-up of the pounding. This mochi is almost finished, and you can see how the individual rice grains have completely disappeared, and it's turning into this goopy, gooey, sticky paste. Every few hits, you have to wet and turn the mochi to make sure it's being pounded evenly. One thing I didn't realize about making mochi is how much hot water is involved. Water to cook the rice. They were all as powerful as that. Water to warm and wet the bowls. Water to keep the mallets wet. Water to wet the mochi in between pounding. And water to clean out the bowls in between each batch. Okay, let's see how the mochi gets from the usu to our mouths. These ladies are breaking the mochi up into balls and rolling it in what I think is cornstarch. You can kind of get an idea of the texture of the mochi here. It's very sticky and it holds together really well. A good number of people, mostly elderly people, die in Japan every New Year's as a result of choking on mochi. And here are a few of the things that you can add to your mochi. I'm not sure what that powder is. The liquid in the bowls is soy sauce, and in the pot there's some kind of beans, and here's some dried seaweed. I wasn't such a big fan of the mochi myself, but I loved the beef bowl that our director and his wife made. It's basically really thin strips of beef, stewed for hours with vegetables and poured over rice. Oishi! Okay, this is a traditional Japanese New Year's altar, I guess. I got most of my information from Wikipedia, so I'm sorry if I make some mistakes. Please correct me. I believe the wooden part on the bottom is a kamidana, which is a kind of Shinto altar. The mounds, the white mounds, are definitely mochi. There's a kagami mochi, which means mirror mochi. The fruit on top is a dai-dai. It's a Japanese bitter orange. There's dried seaweed coming out the middle. I'm not touching it there, just so you know. The branches I forget the name of, but I think they only grow in pairs, which symbolizes something. So if you know that, let me know in the comments. And either the white sheet or the blue tarp is supposed to protect the building from fire in the coming year.
show you the blade, let you feel it, get a balance for it. He'd tell you a little bit about it. You go out back, and there'd be a convicted felon tied up between trees. And you would try your blade out on this convicted felon. When Christians came to Japan, they Christianed the country. They said, no more cutting up people just to try out blades. It's against God. People like Master Watson went to the people who are old warriors and said, what is like cutting a body? We need a way to demonstrate that still says this is a good blade. Cows and chickens are expensive. There's not many of those. They figured out that a 1-inch hemp rope, like you tie horses up with in the corrals, if you hang it loose out of a tree with no weight, is your upper arm, right here, through the bicep and tricep. That mat that you just saw going around is a man's upper thigh between the knee and the hip, severing the femur. If you can do 4 of these, you hit them in the shoulder and you come out the hip socket. 6 is in the head, out the pelvis. And that's been the standard ever since Christians came to Japan.
This is a real pleasure to donate to Kaminari Taiko, the school here. This was a gift from a mysterious benefactor.
Oh.
So it's a young porcelain figure in silk, and she's actually holding a drum.
Yes.
A taiko drum.
And that's it from Kaminari Taiko's 2010 Mochi Pounding Party. Happy New Year's, everybody!